Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to day 3 of the Beyond Online Writing Bootcamp. I'm already seeing a lot of comments in the chat, so hello and welcome. Hi, Trisha. Hi, Joanne. Hi, Morena. Amazing. We are up and running. I will quickly bring my slides up here so we don't waste a second today because I have prepared a lot. We are going to cover a topic today that we've already talked a bit over the last few days, actually, also in our VIP sessions. It's about niching down and about knowing how you can provide the best kind of value to your potential audience. No matter if you're at the very beginning or you already have an existing audience, we're going to cover it all. We call this your unique sweet spot, and it's kind of a hate-love relationship for me because niching down was very hard for me when I started my business, and I know a lot of people are struggling with it because it is hard. As a writer, as a creator, you probably are creating because you are multi-passionate, you have so much to share with the world, so it's really hard to be very clear about one specific topic that you want to share. But I hope that today's training will help you gain that clarity or at least get a few answers to some crucial questions. Before we dive in, let me remind you one more time to separately sign up for tomorrow's masterclass. This is our final event of the Beyond Online Writing Bootcamp. It's obviously a highlight. It's going to be a lot longer and more intensive kind of training. It is not going to be streamed to Facebook or YouTube. That's why you need a separate link in order to be able to join us. You can find the link in the chat box now. So please go there. Quickly sign up and make sure you get the confirmation email so you know you will receive your link on time, because we won't be able to ensure that everybody gets in. So the earlier you sign up, the more sure you can be that you will get your link on time and will be able to join without any struggles. All right. Quick recap. I can see a lot of you guys who've been here with us for the last 2 days, but I'm just quickly going to recap. We started on day 1 when we talked about different opportunities for online writers, about how you can look at your work as a bridge. I think that was kind of the insider of day 1 that a lot of you guys really enjoyed and resonated with. Then on day 2, yesterday, we had an amazing roundtable, which I'm really grateful for. You can catch both replays. They're still available. So if you missed day 1 or day 2, you can catch the replays. They are in the Facebook group. They are on YouTube. So the worksheets are there as well. If you missed them, you can catch the replays. And I would highly recommend doing that because both sessions were really great. Today, we're talking about your unique sweet spot, and tomorrow is the masterclass with the 4-step process to turn your writing into a thriving online business, even if you're starting from scratch. Now, today's big question basically is, how can you personally make use of this industry and opportunity, all the things that we've been talking about in day 1, but also into yesterday's masterclass? How can you as a person with your unique background, your unique strengths, your unique interests show up and really use that to your advantage? At the end of the day, we want to figure out what your profitable niche is. This is true for your writing, but especially for everything that you're going to build on top of your writing, beyond your writing. That's why this is called the Beyond Online Writing Bootcamp, right? We want to go beyond just publishing online. We want to build resources and assets that we can confidently present to our audience so that we can monetize the skills and the passion that we have in multiple different ways. Serving a niche means targeting a very specific group of people. And one way this is sometimes being misunderstood is that we believe this means we need to figure out what the demographics are, like gender or age or where somebody lives, or location-wise what your target audience is. That's not necessarily true. It can be true, But what is much more important is thinking about what we call psychographics, which means what are the deep desires and what's the actual problem you are solving for your audience. This audience could be just man or just woman. It could be a very specific age group, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, if you look at our audience here inside this bootcamp, we have people, I don't know how old our youngest members are, but let me say early 20s, up to people who are already retired, who are writing because they've always loved writing, and now that they're retired, they have more time for it, and they're still loving it. We have a very huge age gap. In terms of gender, it's the same. In terms of location, we are very diverse. We have people from all over the world. So niching doesn't necessarily mean that you need to find out, who your target audience is in terms of demographics. That's what's typically being taught at business schools and marketing classes. But it doesn't have to be the way to go, especially in the kind of businesses that we are building here. If you look at our community, and this is basically our community that is up and running all year round. So if you are very new to my community, you've actually just discovered my work through this bootcamp, you can also come join us over there. This is a community with now almost 10,000 members. And a lot of you here who are already writing on Medium, you probably think of Medium writers as a huge group. But the truth is that Medium writers and the community that we have built is so niche and so small and so specific. If you think about the world as your playground, there are not many Medium writers. I mean, we have a community with 10,000 members now. The largest Facebook group is about 15,000 members, but there's a lot of spam in there. So I'm sure that not all of those 15,000 are actually even writers. And that's kind of, there's still a potential. There's obviously people who are not in our community yet, but that's the range. Like, there are very few people who are interested in writing, if you look at the world as a whole. And there are very few people in the world, just look at it percentage-wise, who would be interested in writing online. Of course, it's thousands, hundreds of thousands of people you could reach globally if you target online writers. If you go on Medium specifically, the number is so small relatively compared to the population of the world. And that's why we are so narrowed down and so specific in knowing how we can serve this community. We've been running this community since I think it's September 2018. I've literally managed every single question in there that's ever been posted. I know what people are asking and what struggles people are facing simply because of the community, because they are talking to me every single day. And that's the kind of, this is a very specific example, and it's hard to be that specific, and you don't have to be in the beginning. But that's hopefully going to help you to get a clear understanding of why a big niche is not necessarily the goal. The goal is to really understand your audience so that you can provide the best kind of value. And we're actually going to talk about another very specific example throughout this entire training. But I just wanted to give you that as kind of a real life example of how we are doing things. If you don't know who you want to serve, if you don't have that clarity on your audience, your message and your content is likely going to be a bit too broad and generic. An example I love to address is fitness content. If you think of nutrition, health, fitness, wellness, weight loss, all these topics, you can't really create really helpful fitness, health, wellness, however you want to call it, content that applies to every single person in the world. Just imagine a 20-year-old person who wants to build muscle mass. They are in their 20s, they are working out, they love working out, they just want to get bigger, or that's a guy who wants to get bigger. So on the other end of the spectrum, you might have a woman in her mid-30s who is in her first pregnancy, who wants to learn more about how she can take care of herself and her baby through by adapting her nutrition and by getting more movement in the long run. Then you could also have someone helping people who are in their 70s to change the way they eat and move, so they have good health until old age. These are totally different people who will have totally different needs, and you cannot just say I'm a fitness writer or I'm a health writer, because the content you write cannot be valuable for all of those. At least the odds are very low, because they all need different pieces of advice just due to the fact that they have different goals, that they have different bodies, and that they are in a different stage at their lives. And in this case, gender and age could be a very relevant factors. But as you can see, for example, if we were talking about pregnant women, it's not just gender and age, but it's also a lot of other factors that you need to factor in. What we are going to talk about specifically today are the 4 parts of a niche. Those are your skills, your passion, their needs, and the profitability of your niche. So we already talked a bit about those in yesterday's VIP call. So our VIP members are probably going to recognize what we meant yesterday when we talked about especially the profitability part. And ultimately, what we want to do, and the reason we want to have a specific niche, is because we want to solve problems for our audience members. We want to help them and bring value to their lives. And one question that I personally love to ask my students is, if you would have the chance to speak on a stage in front of thousands of people who need your help and who you personally could help, which message would you spread? And I know this is hard to answer because you probably have different passions, but just brainstorm, let your thoughts flow, give yourself the space and allow yourself to really come up with a few different answers that you really care about and that you'd love to share with the world. Even if you would freak out if you had to speak on a stage, like, that's not the point. You don't have to. But no matter if it's speaking or writing or whatever you want to do, if you know that you have the chance for your message to be seen by so many people, which message specifically would you spread? Give it a few seconds of thought, and then let me know in the comment section what the first few things are that basically crossed your mind. So let us just know. Even if you have a ton of ideas, drop them in the chat box and let me know what your ideas are and what your message would be if you had this opportunity. Because ultimately, we actually all have the opportunity, because the internet is our stage, and we have the opportunity to not only reach thousands, but millions of people. So this opportunity is actually here for each of you. The only question is, how do you want to make use of it? So let me know in the comments. And there are actually 2 examples that I'd love to share with you. Those are examples of 2 students I worked with, or Philip and I worked with last year in our business building program. And they are totally different approaches to how they have found out, or how they came up with that specific topic they wanted to share with the world. On the one side, we had a student, his name was Lionel, who he had a heart attack. And he recovered from that heart attack, but his doctors basically told him that he has to take medication every single day until the end of his life. And that it was like dozens of pills every day that his doctors told him to take. And they also told him that his life is going to be impacted, and that he's not going to be able to live as he lived before. And now what Lionel did is he wasn't really impressed by this idea, and he wanted to look for alternative ways. So what he did is he didn't do what his doctors told him, and instead he went on a journey to research how else he could really properly recover and get back to being a healthy person and not having to take all those pills every single day for the rest of his life. he did his research, it worked well for him, and he basically figured out for himself how he can actually lead a healthy life without taking the path that his doctor specifically had suggested to him. So his niche was really all about that. Like, his passion or the message he wanted to share was talking to people who have survived a heart attack and letting them know that there is another possible path. Now, this is a very tricky topic, obviously, because whenever he got into those communities and shared what he did, he also got a lot of negative feedback, because a lot of people were very stubborn on this idea that it could be harmful. But that's not the point. The point is that he has figured something out for himself, and he wanted to share this with the world without having any specific background on the topic itself. In just a few years ago, it was his journey and his understanding and experiences with the topic. The other side was another student, and her name was Victoria. And Victoria was working in a marketing agency as a SEO writer. She was producing content or helping the agency's clients to be better at SEO. Now, what she did is she built her own business based on that. So she started to write about SEO and how small businesses and creators could use SEO to their advantage. So what she did was she took a skill set that she actually had in her day job and started to create content on that. What she then did was creating an ebook, for example. And what she also does is working with bigger clients, especially with business clients, on their SEO strategy. So that's what she's doing now, because she actually has quit her job earlier this year and has become a full-time entrepreneur doing what she loves and what she's really good at, because she had the training on the job already. And I actually recently saw an article of her that she just moved to a different country and has even bought her own apartment. So that was two of our students who had totally different approaches, right? Like, for Lionel, it was his very painful personal experience that he had, and his desire to help other people who are in the same shoes. And for Victoria, it was just a very obvious skill set that the world needs and that the world is willing to pay for. And she had that skill set thanks to her job, and she used it in order to build something that gives her more joy and a lot more flexibility than her previous 9-to-5 job. So yeah, that's the two examples I wanted to share with you. I love your comments. So I'm seeing all your replies here. That's wonderful. Thanks to all of you who have shared all the wonderful topics that you would love to share with the world. I'm seeing dyslexia, I'm seeing climate change, I'm seeing youth empowerment, spirituality, personal growth, help you save money, beautiful topics. I want to move on to a more personal example that Philip and I came up with last year when we were actually when we offered our business building program for the very first time. So this was in October 2021, last year. And this is a photo that we've taken after Philip has officially finished his first marathon. Now, Philip and I, we've known each other for almost 6 years now. And ever since we met, he was telling me that he wants to run a marathon. And I'm not a runner. I hate running. So I cannot really relate, but he was telling me that, and he had a really deep desire to do that because he, a few years ago, he had a tumor in his ankle, so he couldn't run at all, and he had incredible pain when he was walking. So for him, this thought of being able to run a marathon was actually incredibly important emotionally, because it meant that he was fully recovered from that tumor that he had years ago. And he was always talking about it, and I was kind of annoyed by that. So I just signed him up for the marathon and told him, hey, I know you can do this, so let's do it. And at the end of the marathon, he was happy because he had run the marathon, and I was actually super impressed because I had never even watched a marathon. And what I realized there was that the average marathon runner is actually 40 years old. That's what I Googled today. So Philip was on the very young spectrum of marathon runners. And I was so impressed to see that so many people at, even their 50s, 60s, even 70s, people who don't even look like they're in shape were running marathons. And I was so impressed by how passionate these people are about finishing that race. And this actually brought us to an idea of using this as a case study and using this as a kind of a case study throughout our entire course materials, because a lot of people, when they think about building online businesses and selling something online, they believe that it always has to be related to money. Like, we even had a comment in our bootcamp community a few days ago where someone said, I don't know what my niche is. I am still a student. I have never built a successful side hustle. I cannot help people make more money. The point is, it is not about making more money. Like, your niche could be anything that people are willing to pay for. And this is a wonderful example. That's still one of my favorites, because in this example, we are basically helping people who want to run their very first marathon in a pain-free way. So this is the entire case study that we will talk about. And the entire question, or the basic question here, is, what is a resource you needed when you faced a problem, but you didn't have access to? You either didn't know that it existed, or it didn't exist at all, or maybe it existed, but the person offering it was just someone that you didn't, or you couldn't relate to. And another example that I love to share is, think of money management. A lot of resources about how to invest, how to save, or how to make more money are from men, right? Now think about all the women out there who actually need information and resources on how to manage their finances. If you are a woman who shows up and who creates resources and who talks from the standpoint of a woman, you're going to have a totally different perspective, and you're going to be able to connect with women in your audience a lot easier, because I can speak from my personal experience and my point of view. If you're talking about certain topics, it's just easier to relate to people who are more like you. Like, I don't want to learn about how to invest from a, 45-year-old banker. I would rather learn from a young woman who has a similar approach, who just, where I feel like this person is actually a bit like me, so I can relate to her. And if she does it, and if she has figured these things out, it means that I can figure it out too. So this is an incredibly important part of knowing who you want to serve and being able to actually connect with your audience. That's why we have the marathon runners example, because Philip, by finishing his first marathon, and he has actually finished multiple by now, is now able to teach people how to run their first marathon without injuries, without having pain, and with actually a smile on their face like he had on the finish line. So the first question we had when we talked about the 4 parts of a niche are obviously your skills. And we have an entire workbook for today's session. So you received it via email already. If not, you also find the links in the comments. And this is probably going to take you a bit more time than we have in this session. So feel free to complete your workbook at the end of the session. But there are basically a lot of questions that will hopefully help you figure out where your sweet spot could be. A few of these questions when it comes to your skills are: what comes naturally to you? What's easy for you but hard for others? So for example, in our case, for Philip, it was incredibly easy always to actually get up and run. Like, he was always running. As I said, he was running half marathons, and even longer distances. He just didn't bring himself to that point to actually finish the entire marathon until he did it last year. what's a personal transformation you went through, and how can your experiences help others? Exactly what I said, right? His personal transformation was going from, oh my God, I cannot do this, that's so hard, I need more information, need more training, to actually just having the key insights and doing it. What do people know you for? In our case, it's actually people actually know Philip. In our, if we talk about our friends and family, they know him for being a runner because he always posts his running distances on Instagram. He has a very cool app where it kind of draws the entire distance in a very cool way on a video, and he's always posting that on Instagram, so people know that he's a runner. So even if he would start this specific business from scratch, it would be very easy for him to have that credibility, because at least his friends and family and his Instagram followers know that he has been running for years, and that he's really passionate at doing this. Another question that can really be helpful is, which struggles did you face and overcome in the last 1 to 5 years? And this is one of my favorites, because if I would ask you which struggles did you face in your entire life, you would probably be paralyzed because you have faced so many of them, right? But if you if we think about the last 1 to 5 years, it's probably a bit easier because you know the specific problems you've overcome in those last 5 years and how they have impacted you as a person, how they have changed your life. And during that journey, another question you can ask yourself is, what did you have to relearn and overcome? So maybe there's been a lot of, just mental blocks and wrong thoughts that have been holding you back. Maybe you realize at a certain point that you've been doing a lot of things wrong because you had access to the wrong kind of information. Maybe you've been treating your body wrong, or you've been doing a certain job wrong because you always been told that you need to do things a certain way. So these are all questions that could help you find out what your skill set is that could be valuable to others. Now, if we move on, the next part is your passion. And this is incredibly interesting too, because being good at something is one part, being passionate about it is the second. And those two should actually be in balance, because if you are really good at something but you hate it, I'm not sure if you will have a blast building a business based on that specific skill set that you have. It could be like, the reason I say it could be is that if you are financially successful with that business and it's a topic you don't necessarily care about that much, but you really you are really good at it and people need it and people are happy about paying you for it, you could still be happy about it. But if you are passionate about something but you don't have the skill set, you're going to struggle financially because you're not going to be able to help your audience in a way that really makes sense for them to pay you for the work. So your passion is actually not really relevant for your audience. This is more of a question that is important to you as the person creating the content and building the business. But for me, on the other side of the screen, it's more important what you can do for me. The questions you can ask yourself here are, what do you want to be remembered for? Or what would you be doing if money was no issue? What are topics you research for fun? I mean, if I think about Philip, you don't want to know how many books about running and marathons and stretching and all that kind of stuff we have at home. Another question is, what do you find meaningful? In our case, if I was to help people run their first marathons, probably because I find it meaningful to help people be in shape or to help them pursue a big dream. And a lot of people have those bucket list items like running a marathon, and there is no specific reason for it. They just want to do it. Another bucket list item just like that one is writing a book. A lot of people just want to have a book and hold it in their hands, a book that they have personally written. It's just a very emotional goal that a lot of people share. Another question is, imagine it's 1 year from now and you are living a life you truly love. What would you be doing? And again, if you hate what you are doing, that's probably not going to be the most fulfilling business. But if you enjoy what you are doing, you're going to be able to find a solution on how to be of value for your audience. Like for me, this is the biggest pleasure to be here with hundreds of people each day and to talk to you guys about all these things, because it's what I'm genuinely passionate about. And it is regardless of the numbers and all the stuff going on behind the scenes. This is the stuff that I really want to talk about and want to share with the world. That's the thing that I would share on a stage, if I decide to go and speak on stages one day. And we're going to circle back to that later, actually. The next question, an incredibly important one that a lot of people want to ignore, is the needs of your audience, of your potential audience. Because if you don't think about the audience, you are essentially going to do it all for you. But if you want to successfully monetize your work, there's no way around thinking about your audience, because as we talked about in day one, your income as a creator, as a digital business owner, entrepreneur, however you like to call yourself, your income, the money, needs to come from somewhere. Ideally, it's going to come from your super fans, from people who read your stories, who consume your content, who love your newsletters, and who then want to pay you to get access to more information and to get access to you personally, maybe even. That could be books, that could be ebooks, audiobooks, it could be physical books, journals. Philip and I are actually selling a journal on Amazon, for example, but it could also be things like courses, coaching programs, audio courses, mini meditations, workbooks, worksheets, templates. There are so many ways you can bring value to your audience if you really care about their transformation and their needs. So questions you can ask yourself here are, what do others ask you about? So if you have a skill set and others are asking you about it, that's probably a sign that there is a need for the information that you have access to. Another question for those of you who are already creating content is, who is already part of your audience? What do these people possibly have in common? Is there a common theme you can actually see in your audience members? And of course, the most important question probably is, whom could you really help based on results you created for yourself and experiences you have made? In our marathon example, it's very obvious, because we can help people who want to run their first marathon and who need information on how to not overtrain, how to eat the right way, how to train the right way, and how to make sure they don't get injured or hurt during the race or during the training, and how to make sure that they really finish the race with a smile on their face. That's the ultimate goal. So that's also the final result in the next point, right? What is the final result you can help others achieve? And another deep question is, what does the world need? So maybe you have something on your mind where you say, this is information that the world just doesn't have enough access to, or there are not enough people speaking about this specific topic. And I have actually seen a few bootcamp members in the community who were talking about topics just like that. So one example that comes to my mind is, I saw someone's worksheets who is actually who is helping people with grief. Like when you lose someone, how do you deal with that? That's a topic we usually don't want to talk about, which is also why it's probably not the sexiest topic to create content around. But does the world need it? Hell yeah, because it's a situation that, let me say, everyone at some point in their life faces, and it's a tough situation where it would really be helpful to have access to certain resources that would make this period of our rise of our journey a little bit easier. Of course, it's always easier to talk about topics that are fun to talk about, but if you can come up with a topic that is underserved, well, you have kind of a little jackpot, because people are going to be in need of that. All right, and the fourth point, actually similar to the last one, is a point that a lot of people don't want to think about, and they're kind of closing their eyes and trying to act like it doesn't exist and it's not necessary, but it obviously is. So our VIP members, what we talked about in the last 2 days. I shared the story of how Philip and I have initially actually started a business which aimed to transform the education system in our country. And we were focused on creating workshops for young students. At a certain point, we realized that students don't really have money to pay for workshops, which means we had a big gap there in our idea. We had a huge passion. We believed that we could really make a huge impact in the world. We believed that our idea was needed in the world, but we didn't think about the profitability of it. And we kind of had to think about it as soon as we hit that wall, because it was just not possible to charge young people for self-improvement events, because they didn't have access to the amount of money even at that age. So incredibly valuable questions that you can ask yourself so that the situation that we've been in actually doesn't happen to you is, are other people successfully serving this niche? I see so many people who get discouraged when they see someone else doing what they want to do. The truth is, if you see someone doing what you want to do, it actually just means, if they're doing it successfully, it means that it's actually a big advantage, because you can basically know that the niche exists in a profitable way and that there is a space and that you can actually show up there and make money. If other people are doing it, it's just a sign that it works. This is actually the best scenario that you can imagine. And if we talk about marathons, any kind of sports, there are so many people helping other people in any kind of sports, right? They're helping professional athletes, but also hobby sport enthusiasts to achieve certain goals. The second question is your target audience able to pay for your work? So this was basically a big no in our case, in our workshop business. When we talk about running marathons, it's a big yes, because people who are struggling financially, so that's a very general statement now, but usually people who are struggling a lot with money are not the people who would think about running a marathon. You even have to pay to run a marathon. So it basically shows that this is an audience that has their finances under control, and they are actually willing and happy to pay for support in their physical journey as a, even if it's just a hobby, they are sports people who are passionate and who are happy to pay for the professional shoes and all the equipment they need. They are happy to pay to even be able to run the marathon. And they're for sure also people who are going to be able to pay for books, courses, coaching, templates, training systems, training plans, and anything related to that could help them achieve their goal. And if we think about Philip, for example, as I said, he would have spent that money happily. He's spending that money on his equipment, on other resources, and training materials, on new shoes, everything that is there. Like, if you are a runner, you can probably relate. I obviously cannot. Like, I go to the gym, but I've never been into sports that is actually more complicated than just going on the stepper or doing some weight training. So depending on where you are in your personal life, you can probably relate a lot to the running example. If not, you can still ask yourself, are there other ways to monetize what you do? examples here could be business collaborations and cooperations. So maybe if we have this marathon running business, if we don't want to charge the runners, maybe we could have cooperations and collaborations with companies that are providing sports gear, that are sponsoring marathons locally, that want to pay us, so we put their branding on our materials so that we share their resources, their promotions, etc., with our existing audience of runners. So there could be a workaround. Our personal approach is we don't necessarily like business to business cooperations because it's still a huge dependency. Like they tell you what to do, how to do it, you have deadlines, etc. It's a totally different game if you have the freedom to create your own resources and sell your own products and services. But it is obviously an opportunity that you have. The next question is the problem you are solving worth paying for? In the marathon example, it is worth paying for because people want to avoid pain and injuries. Like that's a big problem that a lot of people at this stage would be happy to pay for, because they don't want to be in a stage where they hurt themselves and they're not able to run for several months or not run at all. So that's a big pain point. When you are talking about your pain point, think about it in terms of your target audience. Like, is that really a painful situation for my audience to be in? And would they be happy to pay to get their problem solved? And the last question is, how is your work connected to one of the three mega markets? The three mega markets are health, wealth, and relationships. Those are the three big buckets that pretty much all digital products, and also a lot in the physical space, are basically related to, because these are three problems and three fields of improvement that all of us actually care. We all want to be healthy, either to avoid pain or to look better, to feel better. We all want to be wealthy to a certain extent. Like, money plays a role for all of us because we have to pay bills. And we all want to have strong relationships, which means relationships with friends, romantic relationships. But it's also that we want to be liked by others. So this is also a huge, huge point, right? And if you can relate your topic to one of these three and be clear about which of them you are serving, it's always going to be easier for you to think about or to communicate the value of your work in a very clear sense, because people want these three areas of their lives to be in a good state. If you can help them do that, you're going to be in a strong position to actually create resources that other people are happy to pay for. All right. Yeah, a few final thoughts. You don't necessarily need to be the first one to serve a niche, obviously. As I said, being the first one is actually a more dangerous approach because you don't have any existing feedback of the market. If you are not the first one and you see that someone else is already successful in doing what you want to do, you already kind of have that proof that the market is profitable. Instead, we always say, be good at what you do and build human relationships. And everything we did in our business, we've never been the first. We have the Medium Writing Academy is one of our core products that we offer to writers who want to grow their audience and income on Medium. It was not the first course on how to succeed on Medium, but I can confidently say it's the best because I know how to teach, because I've been teaching for years and I just didn't create a random online course. I know that I had the most students in there. I know that I have a community that I'm serving every single day where I get the questions in. And it didn't have to be the first in order to be the best or the most valuable thing that we've been able to produce. It's the same for our Facebook community. Our Facebook community was not the first community that existed, and it was not active for actually 2 years or so. And it's still not the largest, but I can confidently say it's the best place to go if you're looking for answers instead of spammy follow for follow stuff that actually is going to be punished by Medium very soon, hopefully. It's the same with one of our products that we're selling in our other business, which is actually an ebook full of book summaries. So this is not even a unique idea. This, a lot of places are offering and selling book summaries. That's probably, thousands of other book summaries. But we have an audience that we can offer this to, and hundreds of people are seeing this every day. And it's an automated product that is just running on the back end. It's not the first one, it's probably not the best one. It's the one we created that we believe in, and it just works because we have an audience that we can present it to. It's very similar with this other product that we have created actually now 3 years ago. It's a course on how to achieve your goals. There are probably thousands of other courses that teach you similar, or that actually have a similar claim. They don't teach you the exact same thing because we came up with our own method. But the premise is the same. Like we help you set and achieve your goals in a very systematic and simple way. Does it work? Can we sell it? We can sell it because we have an audience that we can sell it to. You cannot create a product and expect it to magically make money. But if you have an audience, if you have a connection, and if you know who you're talking to, you can even monetize very broad and generic ideas. So I have 2 examples here that are very specific and narrow, right, with the Medium writers. But the 2 on, so the ebook and the goal achievement system, those are very broad ideas and broad products that we had. But we've still been able to successfully monetize because of our access to a community that we've built. A long-term approach doesn't mean that you are the first, or doesn't even have to mean that you are the best at doing something. It just means that you are the best, or the best possible option for a specific group of people. And you really just need to be one step ahead so you can help someone who is behind you and who wants to be at that stage where you are at right now. The good news is this is not an ultimate decision. Like, your niche can change, your sweet spot can change over time. But what's important is that you decide on something right now, so you get excited about it and about creating value for others, so that you can actually build a business that you enjoy and that is profitable. If you don't decide on it now, you're going to have a very hard time to actually build something that you can successfully monetize. And really just a few personal thoughts. I teach writers how to grow an audience and income because I genuinely care about it. And the reason I care about it is because it changed my life, because it is an opportunity that I wish I had discovered a lot earlier, because I think it could have changed my life even earlier if I had access to that information. And it's incredibly exciting because I get to create resources just like this bootcamp that I wish I had access to years ago. Like, this is my personal passion because I've been through that journey myself, and I didn't have that kind of support back then. All right. We are already going for 50 minutes, so I want to keep this short, but what I wish for all of you is basically going from I'm passionate about many things, so I'll just create all sorts of content and hope that people will like it, to going to a place where you say, I know what I bring to the table. I know what kind of value I bring, and I'm providing such a specific solution or value to my audience that I can confidently monetize my work and actually ask people to pay for my work because I know it is worth it. And I let my other passions be just that, passions instead of businesses. I already told it, we are all passionate about many, many other things, right? About many things in general. This doesn't mean that every passion you have or every hobby you have needs to be a business. Let some of your hobbies be hobbies and don't try to monetize them. Focus on the business side with one specific value you can create, and focus on being really good at that, and also becoming really good at the part of selling your skills instead of trying to create content around everything that you personally find interesting. All right, so we talked about the importance of serving a specific niche and being clear about the value you provide. We talked about the 4 parts of a profitable niche and how to find yours. You have all the questions in your workbook. If you want to recap, you will also have access to the replay if you want to take a look again. And we talked about how you don't need to be the first one to solve a problem. Instead, you can solve it in your own unique way and show up with your unique personality, right? This was day 3. Thank you all for being here. I know it went a bit longer already than I had actually scheduled, so thank you for staying with me until the very end. Tomorrow is masterclass day. That's the highlight of our bootcamp. Obviously, I hope to see all of you there. It's going to be amazing. We're expecting a lot of people there. We hope everything is going to work out fine. I'm really excited. We have a lot more to cover, and I'm really looking forward to welcoming you there. A few final thoughts. Yeah, you can find the link again in the comment section. If you haven't signed up yet, please do that so we can be sure to send you the right link to access the training tomorrow. Your workbook links are in the comment section as well. This time it's really a workbook, not just a worksheet, so it's a bit more, but take your time. If you have any questions, feel free to get back to us. Feel free to use the community. We love seeing your worksheets in there. It's such a pleasure, and we'll take an even closer look at all your worksheets over the weekend, actually, and next week, and we'll also get back to you. And last but not least, our VIP members, don't forget that we have our next session today in about an hour. If you are not a VIP member, you can still join us. We still have 3 more VIP sessions to go. So these are basically extra coaching calls where we will recap the lessons of today, where we'll talk and answer all your questions in a Q&A format. So I'm already seeing, or I have seen a lot of questions here in the chat that I was not able to answer because I had so much to talk about, but we're going to take those questions with us into the VIP call. So if you want to join us, you can still join us in the VIP experience. We still have 3 more VIP sessions, and it's just $27. So it's going to be more than worth your investment. So if you're excited about learning more, about continuing the conversation, and about maybe even just discussing your personal ideas and the answers to the questions you have in mind, come join us over there, and we'll talk in detail. All right, thank you all for being here. I'll see you in tomorrow's masterclass. Bye-bye.